Glass Onion, a Knives Out mystery. The sequel to the film Knives Out, which came out in 2019, just came out this year. Of course, it started off, it was released on cinemas. Of course, this is with regard to eligibility for the Oscars, but it was especially predominantly streamed on Netflix. Knives Out was one of the biggest hits of all time, especially in the year 2019, right before lockdown hit the entire world. And this movie was so predominantly well written that so many individuals as well as critics acclaimed the film in quite a fashionable manner, which did give a very good light for the film itself. So if at all you have not watched Knives Out 1 yet, I do recommend you watch it as soon as possible before you check out Knives Out 2. And I do believe we will be going quite in depth with regard to the film over this review. So if you have not watched it, my recommendation is that you do watch it first, because it is one movie to die for, pun intended. And it certainly does bring out one of the most exquisite genres in a very beautiful way on screen. So the movie is written, and the screenplay has been put forth by Rian Johnson, who put forth this film, and it was also nominated, Knives Out 1 was nominated for the Best Original Screenplay at the Oscars in the year 2020 as well. And this year, after a break of almost 2 years, we have Knives Out 2, of course, starring the same lead actor, Daniel Craig, who plays Benoit Blanc, one of the greatest detectives of all time, who is there to yet again find out a whodunit. One thing about Rian Johnson's style of writing, whenever he writes movies, he always predominantly tries to amalgamate this whodunit factor along with a mystery thriller genre, which is something a lot of writers, although they aspire to do that, they don't nail it properly. But with Knives Out 1, he nailed it almost impeccably, with starring Ana de Armas, who played one of the lead characters, bringing out this factor of not really knowing who did the murder. And along with that, the red herrings that were set forth alongside Knives Out 1 really did take the audience on an amazing journey across so many suspects until they were finally brought to justice, and the real criminals were brought to light. So now moving on to Glass Onion, Knives Out 2, which is one movie everyone has been waiting for since the release of Knives Out 1 2 years back. And this movie just came out a few months back, and because of eligibility for Oscars, as mentioned before, they had to stream it on cinemas, but it is also available on Netflix. And Netflix did buy rights for the sequel itself, for 2 movies in the sequel, which means that there is hope for yet another movie for all of you Knives Out fans out there. So the story takes place this time a bit in a bit of contrasting manner, because in the previous year it was based off of a murder that did take place very I think I would say quite vividly. But this time, it is based off of a murder mystery itself, as Edward Norton plays a character that brings forth these individuals from contrasting fields onto his private island in order just a celebration of fun. And he's usually an individual that is known for creating a sort of mystery, which has somewhat of a mysterious background behind himself as well. So what he does is he brings these various individuals that he has crossed paths with onto his island. Of course, he does these once a year, and he does this yet again, but of course this time he's also invited a detective, and not only just a detective, one of the greatest detectives of all time, Benoit Blanc, who joins him on this island. And the mystery does take place on the island itself, where there is somewhat of a staged system of Edward Norton's character's murder. And beyond that, I think I would be spoiling the movie a bit too much if I go too into depth. Beyond that, it is one of the most amazing and well-written stories, I would say, because it does encapsulate various sides of people, various motives behind each and everyone's reason for murder, and it is actually how that unfolds from there. I mainly want to elaborate on the topic of the movie itself. This time they have chosen the word glass onion, and I think especially this is because to elaborate on the fact that generally when we think of mysteries or thrillers or murders, we always forget to see the thing that is there exactly in front of us. And the idea of a glass onion is that it is made of glass, and no matter what, you can see right through it, regardless of the countless layers that cover upon it. And it is this metaphor that goes throughout the film, and Benoit Blanc really does utilize this metaphor to encapsulate exactly what he's trying to get the audience as well as the characters to understand regarding who did the murder and how the murder was committed. And of course, it does take us on quite a very turbulent journey. We're also starring wonderful actors like Dave Bautista alongside individuals that are known for being prominent singers that have also taken a stab at acting and nail their characters almost impeccably. So the cast is quite star-studded, and I do believe that they bring out the arcs of the characters very, very well, and that just adds on to the mystery, just adds on to the chemistry amongst these actors, and overall it does add on to the tone of the film itself. And of course, this time, in contrast to Knives Out 1, it is a very Rian Johnson has chosen a palette that is very bright. He uses bright colors down the lines of yellow, light blue, and colors down that line in order to contrast quite strongly from Knives Out 1, which is a very dull and morbid kind of palette that was utilized for Knives Out 1. So of course here we have a brighter looking color, and of course it is set in an island which is during summertime, which brings out more of summer vibes as well as more of a sunny and a vibrant outset for the shooting of the film itself. So the story takes place on this island that is owned of course by Edward Norton's character, where he invites all of them to the island, and the story unfolds from that point on. And of course the story does bring out a very, very, very good flow. There is a very strong flow. The characters are conflicted very reasonably, and I think that each and every character have their own arcs, have their own motives, which really does manifest itself ultimately in the story in a very, in a very elaborate manner. And I think ultimately at the end, it does take quite a twist of a turn when so many incidents take place at the same time. And as you go on throughout the story, it does not follow a very rigid 3-act structure, which a lot of films do. It does follow the structure, but it also plays around a bit with the audience. It shows them certain sides of people, certain aspects of the story. And of course, the climax does strike the audience quite early. So if at all you do identify the climax, that is when the glass onion is about to unfold itself. So this is one movie that I would recommend for all of you to watch. Rian Johnson's screenplay writing ability has been nothing but at a very high standard, and nothing but admired and revered by so many film critics out there. And I do believe that even in Knives Out 2, he brings out his finesse in writing quite strongly. So I do believe that the story itself unfolds in a very, very, very interesting manner. So I do recommend that you guys watch it. Daniel Craig's performance is nothing but impeccable as always, nailing the perfect accent of Benoit Blanc. And also he does carry forward the charisma that he carries forward the character with is something that so many individuals do admire. And I do believe that overall the film does get quite a good rating. And even the reviews on IMDb, on Rotten Tomatoes, as well as various other critics have been quite positive, and I do recommend you all to check it out, because I think this is one mystery, like I mentioned before, that combines a whodunit with this sort of mystery thriller of contemporary movie making, which I think is something that's very rare to find. And of course, there are people that generally hate or rather despise the whodunits of cinema back in the day, but this takes a whodunit and utilizes it in a much more contemporary platform, which really gets the audience interested and intrigued right from the beginning all the way to the end. I also have to mention that the movie is set during COVID time, so there's a lot of quarantine-based antics that are addressed, so do look out for those, and I'm pretty sure those are extremely relatable to many individuals that are watching from home. And I think overall, the movie does give off a very good tone, a very good story, a very good plot, and of course, the star-studded cast brings out the characters in the most lively and amazing way possible. And I think Rian Johnson is the icing on the cake as he puts all of these together in yet another well-delivered Glass Onion. So do check it out. Knives Out 2, Glass Onion, A Knives Out Story is one movie that I do recommend you to watch and check out, and do share your thoughts and comments as well. We would love to hear them, and we would love to see your thoughts on Knives Out 2. With that said, this is Murthaaz Bari, and that is your review on Knives Out 2, Glass Onion.